Here's the last part of getting started with SPSS syntax. In this last section, we're going to be looking at using the production facility. The production facility is a special facility within SPSS statistics, and it's useful for automating syntax. It allows users to run one or multiple syntax jobs and to export the output from those jobs in a particular format, such as SPV, which is an SPSS viewer output, or something more generic like a PDF or a Word document. In each case, you can specify which location the output is exported to. Now, for your information, there's two modes that it runs in. One is interactive, that's the default. It just means it runs in the background on a local computer or one that's connected to a remote server, in which case the local computer must remain on while it's running. And the second one is in the background on a server. The program runs in a separate session on the remote server, and your local computer doesn't have to remain on, and it doesn't have to remain connected to the remote server. That's just so you know the difference between those two different modes. If you want to access the production facility within SPSS from the main menu, you click Utilities, Production Facility. Let's have a look at it. So this is where you access it from, Utilities, Production Facility, and this is the main production facility dialog. Let's just take a moment to walk through some of the primary aspects of this particular facility. For our example, we just need to specify 4 specific elements. The first one is we need to click the plus button to add one or more syntax files. So we're looking for an SPSS syntax file that we've already created here. So that's something which has the extension .sps. Then we want to browse and specify where we want the output to be sent and what format we want it exported in. So we're going to put it out into CTemp, and we're just going to call it test.spv. And then we specify a name and location for the production job file. So we're basically going to wrap this syntax up inside a file, which we're going to hit save here, or save as, to give it a name. We're actually going to call it just example.spj. SPJ means it's an SPSS production job. And lastly, we're going to run it. We're going to run the job itself. And before we create the production job itself, this is the syntax file that we're going to run inside it. So you can see it starts by getting a file. So it just gets this file, employee data with age, and then we just run some frequency, some crosstabs, and a chart, and do some output modify here to select all of the objects except tables and charts, and delete everything that isn't a table or chart, and then just to embolden the totals on it. So a pretty simple little syntax job here. Calling up the production facility from utilities, we simply go to utilities, production facility again. It's actually remembered my settings from the last time I run this, so I'll re-specify it again so you can remind you how that's done. So the first thing is I'm going to tell it where is my syntax file, and to add your syntax file, and you just got to click that little green plus button there, and then navigate to wherever your syntax file is. It's actually nested away down here under a number of different folders. Let me just find it here. There's my little syntax file. It's simply called sample syntax. I'm going to open that. And then I tell it where I want the output to go. Well, it's already pre-specified here, but if I just go through the motions of browsing to that and saying, okay, look, I want to actually create a piece of output called test, and I want it to be an SPV file, so it's an SPSS viewer file. I'll hit save that. And then I need to save my production job itself, so I'll click save as here. So that's the production job. I'm actually going to put it in temp. I'm going to call it example. It's already in there, but I'll hit save over the top of that. And the rest of the settings aren't essential for us. We just need to point out that this is an interactive mode. So, you know, it's not going to be running on a remote server. It's going to be running on this machine. And you've got error processing, continue processing after errors. That just basically means don't stop if you hit an error. And then I could click run at this stage. I could click run at that stage, but basically I've defined a syntax job, and I've wrapped that inside a production job, which is this example.spj. So there's something else I could do. I could actually try and get this to run on a timed basis, and for that I'll need to use a program that exists outside of SPSS statistics. Let's have a look at that. So to further explore our options and our capabilities here, I thought it'd be fun if we looked at how we could execute SPSS with what's called a .bat file. So both SPSS syntax files and production files can be run from command lines with various options. A popular method is to use pretty old-fashioned technique, which is .bat files. These are DOS batch files written in plain text that execute commands within Windows, usually using the Windows prompt. Now, to create a .bat file is not difficult. All you have to do is open notepad.exe and give it a few bits of instruction. The first thing is you've got to say, where is SPSS? So SPSS has an executable. It happens to be called stats.exe. That's the thing that starts SPSS. So where is that? Well, it's usually on the C program files, IBM, SPSS, and sometimes the version number, depending which version you're using. And then you usually tell it the execution mode. So you could put in a mode like silent. Silent just means you won't see the production facility dialog opening up. It'll just be a little Windows prompt that opens up in the background. The name and location of the production job file. So you remember that we put that in C temp. So we just got to tell it that's where it is. And that's it. To show how simple that is, you could just type the following command into Notepad. So you just type in the address of where the SPSS stats executable is. I've had to use double quotes here because if you're using DOS, it often doesn't like long file names like program and a space and files and IBM and SPSS statistics. You can just put double quotes around those, that's fine. So I've said, look, this is where SPSS is. It's called stats.exe. Start that, but start with a hyphen production. So start the production mode. Keep it silent so I don't see it. I don't want to actually physically see it loading. And use this job, this production job against it, which is .spj. It happens to be in the ctemp folder, and the production job, of course, contains the address or points to an SPS file, which is the syntax file, and also points to where it wants the output to go, which is ctemp, and the name of the output file and the form of the output file, which in this case happens to be an SPSS viewer file. Then if you simply save that file, instead of saving as .txt, you save it as SPSS batch example or some sort of name with .bat on the end, so you changed it to .bat rather than txt. That effectively becomes a little executable, and you can run that. So you could actually execute it by simply double clicking it. Alternatively, you could use Microsoft Windows inbuilt task scheduler to execute it on a timed or scheduled basis. And if you want to find that, the best thing to do is simply type task scheduler into the search box within Windows. Let's have a look. So to find the task scheduler, just go down here and type in TS. There it is. It comes up right away, task scheduler. Click on that. That opens up a Windows application, which is the task scheduler. And what you'd normally do is you'd start up and say, just create basic tasks. So I say create basic task. I'll give it a name. I'll call it SPSS task and hit next. And says, well, when do you want it to run? You can see you can have daily, weekly, monthly, one time when the computer starts. So very useful if you're going to be setting up a syntax job that does regular automated reports where you maybe grabs data off a third party and produces lots of charts and then sends the results out in a format like PDF or something like that for you then to read later on. In this case, I'm just going to click one time, hit next, and I'm just going to choose a time which is basically 1 minute from now. So just change this to, let's actually make it 2 minutes to be on the safe side. Hit next. What is the action? The action is it's got to start a program. Where is this program? Well, the program is the .bat file. So I'm simply going to go to C temp down here and find this little .bat file, say star.bat. Search for that. There's SPSS batch example.bat. Hit open that point. So that's the program I want you to run. Hit next and hit finish. Now to finish it, and then we'll simply wait and see if that task executes for us within the next 2 minutes. And the DOS prompt opens to indicate that our production job has started. And once it's finished, if we check the ctemp folder, we should find that there's a new SPV file that's been created in there. And here in the temp folder is our new SPV file. We can just double click on it and check and make sure it's got content in there. and there's the output itself saved in SPV file, test.spv. That's all been remotely executed via the Windows Task Scheduler.